The galaxy was vast and dark, filled with stars that burned bright in the endless night. Between those stars, invisible streams of energy moved through space like spider webs. These were the watching eyes of the Kethmoran Confederacy, and they had been watching for over 2,000 years. The Kethmoran were an old race. Their ships moved between stars with ease, and their weapons could destroy planets. But their greatest power was not in fighting, it was in watching. They had built machines that could see across the galaxy. These machines watched every ship that moved through space. They counted every weapon. They measured every engine. Nothing could hide from their eyes. Admiral ZXHY sat in his command center on the planet Kethmer Prime. Around him, screens showed the movements of 17 different alien races. Each screen had numbers, charts, and lists. The numbers told him how many ships each race had. The charts showed where those ships went. The lists showed what weapons they carried. He had done this work for 40 years. In all that time, no race had surprised him. They all followed the same patterns. They built ships and space stations around their home worlds. They moved their fleets in obvious ways. They tried to hide their weapons, but the Kethmoran sensors could see everything. Today, ZXHY was looking at a new file. The label on the web screen reads Species Classification, Human. The file was thin compared to others. These humans had only been in space for 50 years. Their technology was crude. Their ships were slow. ZEX single quotes HA. I opened the file and read the numbers. The humans had 43 destroyers. These were small warships with basic weapons. They had 12 cruisers. These were larger ships but still weak by galactic standards. They had 1 dreadnought, but it was old and outdated. The report showed where the humans built their ships. There were 4 shipyards. 3 orbited human colony worlds. 1 orbited their home planet, which they called Earth. All of these shipyards were easy to see. The humans made no effort to hide them. ZEX smiled. These humans were like children, playing with toys. Their largest ship carried fewer weapons than a Kethmoran patrol craft. Their fastest ship was slower than a Kethmoran cargo vessel. If the Confederacy ever decided to remove the humans, it would take less than a day. He closed the human file and opened another. The Vextri Empire had been building new ships lately. Their fleet had grown from 200 vessels to 230. This was more interesting than the humans. The Vextri actually posed a small threat. Across the galaxy, in a system the humans called Sol, something was happening that Admiral ZXHY could not see. On a small space station orbiting Jupiter, Dr. Elena Vasquez was holding a meeting that would change everything. The conference room was simple. 10 people sat around a metal table. They wore the blue uniforms of the Human Colonial Defense Force, but these were not ordinary soldiers. These were the people who planned humanity's future among the stars. Elena stood at the head of the table. Behind her, a screen showed the same information that ZXHY had just reviewed. 43 destroyers, 12 cruisers, 1 aging dreadnought. She looked at the numbers and then looked at the 10 people around the table. "They think this is all we have," she said. Her voice was calm, but there was steel in it. "The Kethmoran have been watching us for 5 years. Their sensors see our obvious ships. They count our visible weapons. They think they know everything about us." General Marcus Thompson leaned forward. He was an old soldier with scars on his hands from the early colonial wars. "The question is, how long can we keep them thinking that?" Elena smiled. It was not a pleasant smile. "As long as we need to. The beauty of their system is that it only sees what it expects to see. They look for shipyards, so we give them shipyards. They count warships, so we build warships they can count. But they don't look for anything else." She pressed a button. On the table, the screen changed. Now it showed a different set of numbers. These numbers were much larger. The humans had not 43 destroyers, but 430. They had not 12 cruisers, but 120. And they had not one dreadnought, but 15. Admiral Sarah Chun spoke up from the far end of the table. She was younger than Thompson, but her eyes held the same hard wisdom. The asteroid mining operations are proceeding on schedule. Belt Station. Prometheus came online last week. From the outside, it looks like a simple mining facility. The Kethmoran sensors detect standard mineral extraction signatures. Elena nodded. And underneath? A full military production complex. We can build a destroyer every 2 weeks. The asteroid's rotation masks the energy signatures from our factories. To anyone watching from outside, we're just digging rocks. Colonel James Park added, the survey teams have finished their work on Kepler 442. The official report lists it as marginally habitable with limited strategic value. The Kethmoran will file it under worlds not worth watching. And the reality? Elena asked. Underground cities housing 2 million people. Planetary defense systems that could stop a full battle fleet. Manufacturing facilities that make our Earth-based shipyards look like hobby shops. All of it hidden beneath what looks like an empty world. Elena looked around the table. Each person here represented a different part of humanity's hidden strength. The asteroid fortresses that appeared to be mining operations. The dead worlds that were actually thriving military bases. The research stations that were really weapons factories. The cargo ships that carried more than cargo. The Kethmoran have been watching the galaxy for 2,000 years, Elena said. They think they understand how young races behave. They expect us to be obvious. They expect us to build in the open. They expect us to follow the same patterns as every other species they've encountered. She paused and looked at each person. Around the table. But humans have always been good at one thing. We're good at making our enemies underestimate us. We're good at looking weak when we're strong. We're good at hiding our true capabilities until the moment we choose to reveal them. General Thompson spoke again. How much longer do we need? Elena considered the question. Outside the station's windows, Jupiter's great red spots swirled in the darkness. Somewhere beyond the outer planets, invisible sensors watched and counted humanity's ships. They saw exactly what humanity wanted them to see. 5 more years. She said finally, 5 years to finish the hidden installations. 5 years to complete the fleet. 5 years to make sure that when the galaxy finally learns what humanity really is, it will be too late for them to do anything about it. She pressed another button. The screen now showed a map of human space. Red dots marked the locations of obvious human installations. Blue dots marked the hidden ones. There were 5 times as many blue dots as red ones. The Kethmoran think they're watching our fleets, Elena said. They think they know our strength. They think they understand our capabilities. But they're not watching our fleets. They're watching our decoys. The real strength of humanity isn't in our ships. It's in our worlds. It's in our ability to turn every rock, every station, every seemingly innocent installation into an instrument of war. The meeting ended 30 minutes later. The 10 people left the room and returned to their duties. None of them spoke about what they had discussed. The plans they had made would remain secret. On Kethmer Prime, Admiral Zex High finished his daily reports. The humans still had 43 destroyers, 12 cruisers, and 1 aging dreadnought. Nothing had changed. Nothing was worth his attention. He had no idea that in 5 years, everything would change. He had no idea that humanity was not building a fleet to fight the Kethmoran. They were building something far more dangerous. They were building an entire civilization designed for war, hidden behind the perfect illusion of peaceful expansion that the Watchers in the Void continued to watch. But they were watching the wrong things. Dr. Sarah Chun pressed her face against the cold metal of the observation window. Below her, thousands of small mining robots moved through the asteroid like metal ants. Their cutting beams sliced through rock and metal, sending streams of valuable minerals toward the processing stations. To anyone watching from outside, this looked exactly like what it was supposed to look like. A mining operation. Sarah smiled as she watched the robots work. The Kefmoran sensors had been scanning this asteroid for 3 months now. Every day, their invisible eyes measured the energy output from the mining equipment. Every day, they recorded the amount of metal being extracted. Every day, they filed another report that said humans were digging rocks in space. They were not. Wrong. The humans were digging rocks. But they were digging much more than rocks. Sarah walked away from the window and took an elevator that went down instead of up. The elevator descended for 5 minutes through solid rock. When the doors opened, she stepped into a world that the Kefmoran could never imagine. The first thing that hit her was the sound. Thousands of machines working at once created a constant hum that vibrated through the rock. The second thing was the light. Massive work areas stretched out in all directions, lit by the bright glow of fusion reactors. The third thing was the smell of hot metal and ozone from the energy weapons being tested in the far chambers. Sarah walked along a metal walkway that ran between 2 assembly lines. On her left, robotic arms were building the hull of a destroyer. The ship was sleek and deadly, nothing like the crude vessels the humans showed to the galaxy. Its weapons were hidden beneath smooth armor plating. Its engines used technology that would not appear in human databases for another 10 years. On her right, another assembly line was building something even more impressive. This was a cruiser, but it was 3 times larger than any cruiser in the official human fleet. Its main gun could punch through the armor of a Kefmoran battleship. Its shields could absorb enough energy to power a small city. Sarah reached the end of the walkway and took another elevator. This one went even deeper into the asteroid. When the doors opened, she found herself in the command center of what was officially called Mining Station Prometheus. Commander David Rodriguez turned when he heard her footsteps. He was a thin man with steady hands and sharp eyes. For the past 2 years, he had been in charge of the most important secret in human space. "How are we doing today?" Sarah asked. David gestured toward a wall of screens. Each screen showed a different part of the hidden fortress. Assembly Line 1 finished another destroyer this morning. Assembly Line 2 is halfway done with a heavy cruiser. The weapons testing range confirmed that our new plasma cannons work exactly as designed. Sarah nodded and looked at the screens. And the surface operation? Perfect cover. We extracted 40,000 tons of rare metals yesterday. The processing stations are working at full capacity. Anyone scanning us will see exactly what they expect to see. A successful mining operation that's making money for the human colonies. Sarah walked to the central command table. A holographic display showed the entire asteroid. The surface level was exactly what it appeared to be. Mining equipment, processing stations, storage areas, and living quarters for the miners. But beneath that surface level were 50 more levels that no scanner could detect. Level 10 contained the fusion reactors that powered everything. Level 20 held the factories that built weapons. Level 30 was where they tested new ships. Level 40 contained enough military supplies to fight a war for 10 years. Level 50 was the deepest level, where they built things that were so secret that even most of the workers didn't know what they were building. "How many ships do we have ready?" Sarah asked. David touched the display, and numbers appeared in the air. 12 destroyers, 4 cruisers, 2 heavy assault ships, 1 experimental battleship that we're still testing. Sarah did the math in her head. The Kefmoran thought humanity had 43 destroyers in total. This one hidden base had built enough ships to increase that number by 30%. And this was just one base. There were 17 others like it scattered through human space. "Any problems with the quantum masking?" she asked. David shook his head. The new ships are completely invisible to Kethmoran sensors. We tested it last week. We moved a destroyer right past one of their monitoring stations. Their computers didn't detect anything larger than a piece of space debris. Sarah smiled. Human scientists had spent 5 years studying Kethmoran sensor technology. They had learned how to fool it completely. The key was understanding what the sensors looked for. Once you knew that, you could make anything invisible. The elevator behind them opened, and Captain Marcus Wright stepped out. He was covered in metal dust, and his uniform was stained with grease. Marcus was in charge of the mining operation that served as cover for everything else. "Sorry I'm late," he said. "We had a small problem with mining Robot 7. It started cutting in the wrong direction and almost broke through into level 15. Sarah raised an eyebrow. Level 15 was where they stored the completed weapons. If a mining robot had broken through, it would have created some very awkward questions. "Is it fixed?" she asked. Marcus nodded. "We rerouted the robot and sealed the hole. To anyone watching, it just looks like we hit a pocket of hard rock and had to change direction." David brought up another display. This one showed the location of every human in the asteroid. 200 people worked in the surface mining operation. 3,000 worked in the hidden levels below. The surface workers thought they were part of a normal mining operation. They had no idea that they were living on top of the most advanced military facility in human space. "The workers are asking questions," Marcus said. "They've noticed that we use a lot more power than a normal mining operation should need." Sarah had expected this. It was impossible to hide everything from everyone. "What are you telling them?" "That we're running experimental deep drilling equipment. The story is that we're trying to extract metals from deeper in the asteroid than anyone has ever tried before. It explains the extra power usage and the strange noises they sometimes hear." David pointed to another screen. "Speaking of strange noises, we need to be more careful with the weapons testing. Last week's plasma cannon test was loud enough to vibrate through the rock." One of the surface workers asked why the asteroid was shaking. Sarah made a note to talk to the weapons testing team. Everything depended on maintaining the perfect illusion. The Kethmoran had to believe that this was just a mining operation. If they suspected anything else, they would look closer. And if they looked closer, they might discover the truth. The truth was that humanity had learned something important about hiding in space. The best way to hide something was not to make it invisible. The best way to hide something was to make it look like something else. Something boring. Something not worth a second look. Every race in the galaxy built their military bases in obvious places. They put them in orbit around important planets. They surrounded them with defensive ships. They made them look like military bases because they wanted their enemies to see their strength. Humans had chosen a different path. They made their military bases look like civilian operations, mining stations, research facilities, communication relays, things that every spacefaring civilization needed but no one paid attention to. Sarah looked at the display showing the completed ships. Each one represented months of careful work. Each one had been built in secret and would remain secret until the day humanity chose to reveal its true strength. "How long until the next ship is ready?" she asked. David checked his schedules. "The heavy cruiser will be finished in 6 days. After that, we start work on something special. A new class of ship that will make everything else look like toys." Sarah smiled. She knew what he was talking about. The plans were locked in her personal safe. A ship so advanced that it would change the balance of power in the galaxy. A ship that would show every other race what human engineering could really accomplish. But that ship would have to wait. For now, humanity needed more destroyers and cruisers. They needed to build a fleet that could protect their hidden installations. When the time came to reveal them, Sarah took one last look at the screens. showing the bustling activity in the hidden levels of the asteroid. Thousands of people working to build humanity's secret strength. Above them, mining robots continued their simple work, maintaining the perfect disguise. The Kethmoran sensors continued to watch. They saw mining equipment and metal extraction. They saw exactly what humanity wanted them to see. They had no idea that they were looking at the most dangerous military facility in the galaxy. Admiral Zexhai stood before the great strategic display in the war room of Kethmar Prime. The holographic projection showed 300 Kethmoran warships arranged in perfect battle formation at the edge of human space. Each ship was a masterpiece of military engineering, capable of destroying entire fleets of lesser vessels. For 40 years, Zexhai had prepared for moments like this. The Confederacy had decided that humanity had grown large enough to become a potential threat. Not a real threat, of course. The humans were still weak and primitive. But they had expanded to 12 star systems, and their fleet had grown to over 50 ships. It was time to remind them of their place in the galaxy. The Admiral touched a control on his command chair. Numbers appeared in the air, showing the strength of both fleets. The Kethmoran had 300 ships. The humans had 43 destroyers, 12 cruisers, and 1 ancient dreadnought. The battle computer calculated that the humans would be completely destroyed in 47 minutes. "Admiral," said Commander Thekaros, his tactical officer, "the human fleet is moving to intercept us. They appear to be bringing everything they have." Zexhai smiled. This was exactly what he had expected. Young races always made the same mistake when facing the Confederacy. They brought their entire fleet to one big battle, hoping to win through desperation and luck. It never worked. "Show me their formation," Zexhai ordered. The display changed to show the approaching human ships. Admiral Sarah Reyes was commanding. From the old dreadnought Indomitable, her ships were arranged in a classic defensive wall formation. It was textbook military strategy, but it was also completely hopeless against superior numbers. Zexhai studied the human ships carefully. Their technology had improved slightly over the past 5 years, but not enough to matter. Their weapons were still primitive plasma cannons and missile systems. Their shields were barely strong enough to stop Kethmoran scout ship weapons. Their fastest ships were slower than Kethmoran cargo vessels. "Begin the attack," Zexhai ordered. "First wave will engage their destroyers. Second wave will target their cruisers. Third wave will capture their dreadnought. I want Admiral Reyes taken alive so she can witness the destruction of her colonies." The Kethmoran fleet moved forward like a great metal tide. Their ships were beautiful and terrible, with smooth hulls that gleamed in the starlight. Energy weapons charged with power that could melt asteroids. Shields flickered to life around each vessel. The first Kethmoran assault wing reached the human formation and opened fire. Brilliant beams of energy lanced across space toward the human destroyers. The battle computer updated its predictions. The humans would be destroyed in 42 minutes instead of 40-7. Then something impossible happened. Ships began appearing where no ships had been before. Not emerging from hyperspace, which would have shown clear energy signatures on Fanco. The sensors. Not decloaking, which would have left traces of stealth technology. Simply materializing from positions that the Kethmoran instruments insisted were empty space. These new ships were not like the crude vessels in the intelligence files. They were sleek predators with energy signatures that made Zexhai's blood run cold. Their weapons powered up with a hum that could be felt across space. Their shields blazed to life with strength that rivaled Kethmoran capital ships. "Report!" Zexhai shouted. Commander Thekaros stared at his instruments in confusion. "Sir, I'm detecting 37 new human vessels. No, wait. 53. The numbers keep changing. They're appearing faster than our sensors can count them." Zexhai looked at the tactical display. Red dots representing human ships were blooming across the screen like flowers opening in fast motion. Each new ship was larger and more powerful than anything in the human fleet database. How is this possible? He demanded. Where did they come from? Before anyone could answer, something even more shocking happened. The asteroid belt at the edge of the system began to move. What the Kethmoran had dismissed as space debris was revealing itself as something far more dangerous. A massive asteroid, easily 50 kilometers across, rotated to bring enormous weapons to bear on the Kethmoran fleet. Gun ports opened along its surface like the eyes of some ancient beast waking from sleep. Energy readings spiked as weapons larger than anything on a Kethmoran battleship prepared to fire. That's impossible, Vekaros whispered. Our sensors showed it was just a rock, just empty mining debris. More asteroids were moving now. The entire belt was coming alive as hidden weapons platforms revealed themselves. Each one had been disguised so perfectly that the Kethmoran sensors had detected nothing but ordinary space rocks for months. Zexhai felt something he had not experienced in 40 years of military service. Fear, real, cold fear that made his hands shake as he gripped his command chair. Sir, his communications officer called out. We're receiving a transmission from the human fleet. Put it on screen, Zexhai ordered. Admiral Sarah Reyes appeared on the main display. She was younger than Zexhai had expected, with steel-gray hair and eyes like winter storms. Behind her, the bridge of her dreadnought showed calm efficiency. No panic, no desperation. Just professional military competence. Admiral Zexhai, she said. Her voice was polite, but carried an edge of steel. I am Admiral Reyes of the Human Colonial Defense Force. You have entered our space with hostile intent. I am prepared to offer you one opportunity to withdraw. Zexhai found his voice. You are outnumbered 3-1, human. Your pathetic fleet cannot hope to match the power of the Confederacy. Admiral Reyes smiled. It was not a pleasant expression. Admiral, you seem to be operating under some incorrect assumptions about our capabilities. Allow me to correct them. She gestured towards something off-screen. What you see here is not our fleet. This is our border patrol. The tactical display updated again. More ships were appearing, emerging from positions throughout the system. Sleek cruisers that had been hiding behind moons. Destroyers that had been drifting motionless in the asteroid field for weeks. Massive battleships that had somehow escaped detection despite being larger than Kethmoran dreadnoughts. You have been watching our obvious installations for 5 years, Admiral Reyes continued. You have counted our visible ships and measured our apparent weapons. But you made one critical error in your intelligence gathering. Zexhai stared at the display as the human ship count continued to climb. 70 ships, 100, 150. The numbers kept rising. What error? He asked, though he was beginning to understand. You assumed that what you could see was all there was to see, Admiral Reyes replied. You never considered that we might be showing you exactly what we wanted you to see. A new contact appeared on the sensors. This one was massive, larger than a space station. As it moved out of the shadow of a gas giant, its true shape became clear. It was a ship, but it was enormous beyond anything in galactic databases. Its weapons alone were larger than most Kethmoran vessels. The ship you are looking at is the HCS Prometheus, Admiral Reyes said. According to your intelligence files, it is a mining station. According to reality, it is a mobile fortress that has been watching your fleet for the past 6 months. Zexhai looked at his tactical officer. How many ships do they have? Vekaros was pale as he read his instruments. Sir, I count over 200 vessels now. And they're still appearing. Our entire intelligence database on human capabilities appears to have been completely wrong. Admiral Reyes leaned forward in her command chair. Admiral Zexhai, You came here expecting to fight 43 destroyers and 12 cruisers. Instead, you are facing a force that outnumbers you 2-1, with technology superior to your own. In a star system where every asteroid and moon has been turned into a weapons platform. She paused to let that information sink in. I strongly recommend that you reconsider your tactical situation. HFY stared at the display, showing hundreds of human ships surrounding his fleet. Each moment brought new revelations as more hidden vessels revealed themselves. Mining ships were shedding their outer hulls to reveal warships underneath. Cargo vessels were deploying weapons that should not have been possible to conceal. Even civilian transports were showing military-grade shields and engines. The battle computer updated its calculations one final time. Instead of predicting Kethmoran victory in 47 minutes, it now showed Kethmoran defeat in less than 10. For the first time in 2,000 years, the Watchers had been watching the wrong things. Commander Thekaros gripped his console as the impossible became reality around him. His instruments had been reliable for 20 years of military service. They had never lied to him before. But now they were telling him things that could not be true. Sir, he called to Admiral HFY, his voice cracking slightly. The asteroid designated Mining Zone 7 is moving under its own power. Energy readings suggest it has engines larger than our main battleships. HFY turned to look at the tactical display. The asteroid was indeed moving, breaking its orbit with massive engine burns that lit up space like a small sun. As it rotated, weapon ports opened along its surface. Each gun was the size of a Kethmoran destroyer. That cannot be a natural asteroid, HFY said. Our geological surveys showed it was solid rock. The surveys were correct, sir, Thekaros replied, his voice filled with growing panic. It is solid rock. But they hollowed it out and turned the entire thing into a mobile weapons platform. Sir, I'm detecting 47 more asteroids beginning to move throughout the system. Across human space, similar scenes were playing out as Kethmoran scouts discovered the truth about humanity's hidden strength. In the Kepler 442 system, what they had cataloged as a dead world was coming alive in ways that defied belief. Lieutenant HFY commanded a small reconnaissance ship that had been monitoring the system for 3 years. His mission was simple. Watch for any signs of human military activity. Report anything unusual. In 3 years, he had seen nothing worth reporting. The planet below was a barren rock with thin atmosphere and no signs of civilization. That changed. In one terrifying moment, the ground began to open. Not in random places, but in perfect geometric patterns across the entire planet. What had looked like natural rock formations revealed themselves as carefully camouflaged launch silos. The planet's thin atmosphere suddenly blazed with the exhaust, trails of thousands of missiles rising from hidden positions. HFY stared at his sensor readings in disbelief. This is impossible, he whispered to himself. We surveyed this world. We found nothing, no cities, no installations, no signs of life. His instruments detected the first missile launch, then 10 more, then 100. Within minutes, 10,000 projectiles were climbing towards space from launch sites scattered across the planet's surface. Each missile was larger and more sophisticated than anything in Kethmoran databases. Control, this is Scout 7. HFY transmitted back to the main fleet. The dead world of Kepler 442 is not dead. Repeat, the world is not dead. I am detecting massive military installations across the entire planetary surface. The response came back immediately. Scout 7, confirm your report. Are you saying there are military bases on that world? HFY looked at his instruments again. The energy readings were off his charts. Underground reactors were powering up across the planet. Defensive systems were coming online. The entire world was transforming from a barren rock into a single massive weapons platform. Negative control, he replied. I am not detecting military bases on this world. The entire world is a military base. Back in the main battle, Admiral HFY was discovering just how wrong his intelligence had been. Reports flooded in from across the human systems as his scouts uncovered one impossible truth after another. "Sir," his communications officer called. "Out." Scout Team 3 reports that the research station in the Proxima system has just deployed enough firepower to destroy a battle group. Scout Team 7 says the cargo depot at Wolf 359 was hiding an entire fleet of battleships. Scout Team 12 reports that the communication relay at Ross 128 just launched 300 fighters. HFY felt his world crumbling around him. Every piece of intelligence the Confederacy had gathered about humanity was proving to be lies. Not accidental mistakes, but carefully planned deception on a scale that should have been impossible. How did they hide all of this? He demanded. Commander Thika Ross was studying the tactical display, trying to understand what they were seeing. "Sir, I think they didn't hide it. They disguised it. Every installation we're discovering was exactly where our sensors said it was. We just thought it was something else." A new alarm sounded as another revelation appeared on the screens. The human cargo ships that had been moving through the system for months were shedding their outer hulls. Underneath the civilian disguises were warships unlike anything in galactic databases. The HCS Transport 7 had been carrying mining equipment between asteroids for 6 months. Kethmoran sensors had cataloged it as a standard freight vessel. Now its cargo bay doors were opening to reveal launch bays for 50 fighter craft. Its hull was separating to show weapon systems that belonged on a heavy cruiser. "They turned their cargo ships into aircraft carriers," Thika Ross said in amazement. Every supply run was actually a military deployment. More ships were revealing their true nature throughout the system. Civilian transports became destroyers. Research vessels became cruisers. Even passenger liners were deploying military grade. Shields and weapons. Admiral Reyes appeared on the communication screen again. Behind her, the bridge of the Indomitable showed calm efficiency despite the chaos around them. "Admiral HFY," she said, "I trust you are beginning to understand your situation." HFY looked at his tactical display. The Kethmoran fleet was now surrounded by over 300 human warships. The asteroids had formed a defensive perimeter around them. The planet below was targeting them with enough missiles to destroy every ship in his fleet 10 times over. "How long have you been planning this?" he asked. Admiral Reyes smiled. "We began preparations the day your sensors first detected our ships 5 years ago. Every mining operation you cataloged was really a military construction project. Every research station you dismissed was really a weapons factory. Every dead world you ignored was really a fortress waiting to be activated." She gestured toward the tactical display visible behind her. "You spent 5 years watching our obvious fleet while we built a hidden civilization designed for war. Every rock in our space, every station, every seemingly innocent installation is part of a vast military machine." The scope of human deception was becoming clear to HFY. The humans had not just hidden some ships. They had hidden an entire military infrastructure while making it look like peaceful civilian expansion. "You made us think you were weak," he said. "We made you think what we wanted you to think," Admiral Reyes corrected. "We studied your sensor technology for years. We learned exactly what signatures you looked for and exactly how to fake them. We showed you mining operations while we built weapons factories. We showed you research stations while we built fleets. We showed you dead worlds while we built fortress planets." HFY realized the full extent of his failure. The Confederacy's intelligence network, built over 2,000 years, had been completely fooled by a species that had been in space for less than a century. "Every report we filed was wrong," he whispered. "Every report you filed was exactly what we wanted you to file," Admiral Reyes replied. You thought you were watching our fleets. But you were really watching our theater performance. We showed you exactly what a weak, primitive species should look like while we built something far more dangerous underneath. The planet below them pulsed with energy as more defensive systems came online. Across the system, hidden installations continued to reveal themselves. The humans had not built a fleet to fight the Kethmoran. They had built worlds that could fight. Admiral Zexhai looked at his tactical officer. Casualties? Vekaros checked. His readings, none yet, sir. They haven't fired a single shot. They're just letting us see what they really are. Admiral Reyes leaned forward in her command chair. Admiral Zexhai, you came here to destroy what you thought was a weak human fleet. Instead, you have discovered that we are not weak, and this is not just a fleet. This is an entire civilization that has spent 5 years preparing for this exact moment. The demonstration was over. The humans had shown their true strength. Now Zexhai had to decide whether to retreat in shame or die. In a battle he could not possibly win. Admiral Zexhai stood on the bridge of his flagship as it limped away from what would be remembered as the greatest military disaster in Kethmoran history. Behind them, the human fleet watched but did not pursue. The humans had made their point. They did not need to destroy the retreating ships to prove their power. Of the 300 vessels that had entered human space with such confidence, only 48 remained combat-ready. The others floated dead in space or had been completely destroyed when they refused Admiral Reyes' offer to surrender. The humans had not even used their full strength. They had revealed just enough to make it clear that resistance was impossible. Status report, Zexhai ordered. Though he already knew the answer would be grim, Commander Vekaros looked up from his console. His face was pale, and his hands shook slightly as he read the numbers. 57 ships destroyed. 195 ships disabled, but intact. 48 ships still able to fight, but most have damage to weapons or engines. Zexhai nodded. The humans could have destroyed every ship in his fleet. Instead, they had chosen to disable most of them. It was a message. We could have killed you all, but we chose not to. Remember that when you report back to your superiors. What about casualties? He asked. 23,000 dead. 41,000 wounded. Most of the casualties were from ships that refused to surrender when ordered. Zexhai closed his eyes. In one day, humanity had destroyed more Kethmoran ships than the Confederacy had lost in the previous 100 years combined, and they had done it while holding back most of their true strength. The communication system activated, and Admiral Reyes appeared on the screen one final time. She looked tired but satisfied, like a teacher who had just finished a difficult lesson. Admiral Zexhai, she said, I trust your journey home will give you time to think about what you have learned today. Zexhai found his voice. What do you want us to tell the Confederacy? Tell them the truth, Admiral Reyes replied. Tell them that humanity is not the weak species they thought we were. Tell them that we have been preparing for this day since the moment we discovered we were being watched. Tell them that every assumption they made about us was wrong. She paused and looked directly at him through the screen. Most importantly, tell them that we do not want war. But if war comes to us, we are ready for it. The transmission ended, and Zexhai was left alone with his thoughts and his failures. Around him, the bridge crew worked quietly to repair their damaged systems. No one spoke about what they had witnessed. There were no words for what humanity had shown them. 3 weeks later, Zexhai stood before the High Council of the Kethmoran Confederacy. The Great Chamber was filled with the most powerful beings in known space. For 2,000 years, they had ruled the galaxy through superior technology and military might. Today, they were learning that their reign was no longer unchallenged. Explain to us how you lost 3/4 of your fleet to a primitive species, demanded High Counselor Velthan. His voice carried the authority of centuries of absolute power. Zexhai had prepared for this moment during the long journey home. He had thought carefully about how to explain the impossible. "Honored counselors," he began, "the humans are not primitive. They never were. For 5 years, they allowed us to believe they were weak while they built the most sophisticated military machine in galactic history." The council chamber erupted in angry voices. Counselors shouted questions and accusations. How could the intelligence networks have been so wrong? How could a young species outsmart systems that had worked for millennia? "Hi!" Counselor Velfan raised his hand for silence. "You are telling us that our entire understanding of this species was incorrect?" "Yes, honored counselor. Every mining operation we observed was really a weapons factory. Every research station was really a military base. Every dead world was really a fortress. They showed us exactly what we expected to see while building something completely different underneath." Zexai activated a holographic display that showed the true scope of human capabilities. The numbers were staggering. Where the Confederacy thought humanity had 50 ships, they actually had over 800. Where the Confederacy thought they had 4 shipyards, they actually had 30. Where the Confederacy thought they controlled 12 systems, they had actually turned those 12 systems into fortress networks that could destroy entire fleets. "How is this possible?" asked Counselor Nexrin. "Our sensors are the most advanced in the galaxy. The humans studied our sensor technology for years," Zexai explained. "They learned exactly what signatures we looked for and exactly how to fake them. They made their weapons factories look like mines. They made their warships look like cargo vessels. They made their fortress worlds look like empty rocks." The implications were sinking in around the chamber. If humanity could fool Kethmoran intelligence so completely, what other species might be hiding their true capabilities? How many other civilizations had learned to appear weak while building strength? High Counselor Velfan leaned forward in his chair. "What do the humans want?" "They claim they want peace," Zexai replied. "But they have made it clear that they will fight if threatened. And honored counselors, they can fight. Their technology is more advanced than ours in many areas. Their ships are faster, their weapons more powerful, their defenses stronger." The chamber fell silent as the council absorbed this information. For 2,000 years, the Confederacy had been the dominant power in the galaxy. They had never encountered a species that could challenge them militarily. Now they were learning that such a species had been growing right under their noses. "What do you recommend?" Velthan asked. "HA. I had thought about this question for weeks. The answer was not what the council wanted to hear, but it was the only logical conclusion. Honored counselors, I recommend that we leave the humans alone. They have shown us that they can defend themselves. They have also shown us mercy by allowing my fleet to retreat instead of destroying it completely. If we attack them again, they may not be so generous." The chamber erupted again. Some counselors demanded immediate retaliation. Others called for a full investigation of intelligence failures. A few wise voices suggested that perhaps it was time to reconsider the Confederacy's approach to younger species. High Counselor Velthan raised his hand again. "We will consider your recommendations, Admiral. But first, we must understand how our intelligence systems failed so completely." As the council debated, Zexai thought about Admiral Reyes and her final words to him. The humans did not want war, but they were ready for it. They had spent 5 years preparing for the day when the galaxy would learn their true strength. That day had come, and everything had changed. The age of Kethmoran dominance was over. The age of humanity had begun. In the weeks that followed, word of the human victory spread throughout the galaxy. Other species began to look at their own hidden projects with new interest. If humanity could build worlds that war while appearing to build worlds that mine, what else was possible? The galaxy would never be the same. The Watchers had been watching the wrong things, and now everyone knew it. Humanity had written the first chapter of a new era, where strength could be hidden behind the mask of weakness, and where the most dangerous civilizations might be the ones that appeared most peaceful. The stars themselves seemed different now, full of new possibilities and hidden dangers. And somewhere in human space, Admiral Sarah Reyes stood on the bridge of her ship, looking out at those stars and planning for whatever challenges the future might bring.